Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is the Money Magic series, a series of classes where people share their transformational money stories. The series is brought to you by Wealthy Money, where money and emotions meet. My name is Vangile and I am the author of the Holistic Wealth Manifesto and Heart, Mind, and Money. I'm also the founder of Wealthy Money. I will be your host for this class. My guest teacher today is Tia Kelly from tiakelly.com, and she is all the way from California.
Okay, so welcome, Tia. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me, Van. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for agreeing to do a wealthy money class for us. So, before I even get started, please can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I want to start by saying how you and I met, which I find to be a really fun, exciting story. So
Yes, please.
Ben and I connected with each other because I have a nonprofit organization called Global Sorority that goes around the world teaching a leadership development course called EOS. It was developed by Loretta Challa. And I went to fundraising management school, and I met this lovely man. He was from South Africa, and he was filling the room with joy and laughter and loudness, and he was just a really big character. And at the end, like, oh, you're going to South Africa? And I said, yeah, I am. And he's like, you have to meet my cousin Van. And I was like, okay, well, give me her email or something, and maybe it's a big country. I don't know how this did. We got there and we got to meet each other, and she's been a dear friend. And so I'm really excited to do this webinar with her. So that's how people connect from all across the world. Connections are a beautiful thing. So,
I know. It's so amazing, actually, and it's not often like that I'm always in one place for a while. So
right?
the fact that I was in South Africa and you met me at a point when I was like, I'm nesting, I'm never leaving South Africa, which lasted for all of like 3 years of my life.
Not even that long after I was there, though. You were out of there already. So.
I know. So I think we're meant to meet.
Very cool. So, okay, so a little bit about me other than that cool story of meeting Van. I was born in India, traveled all around the world with my family growing up. I was born, in a little village in Goa in the middle of the night with no running water or electricity, and the midwife didn't show up. So it was an adventurous start, and I just kept rolling.
Yeah, I didn't know this. What?
Yeah. So crazy.
That is crazy.
Drug us all over the world. We finally moved to Ireland, where I spent all of my teen years on a farm in Ireland, and then moved back to the United States because I had spent some time here as a child as well. And I started coaching probably 8 years ago, which has really grown and expanded my life and my business, and met a fantastic man who I'm married to now, and we live in California. And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
Wow. Oh my word. Like, I just can't believe that you were born in Goa. Actually, I love Goa so much. That's
You were just there recently, weren't you?
yeah, last year, and I think I want to go back. I mean, I'm thinking.
Okay, well, I wouldn't put it past you.
I really, really liked Goa so much.
Yeah.
Although sometimes the energy kind of overwhelmed me.
Yeah, in general can be overwhelming, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great energy, but I also learned that like too much spirituality and too much going on, you also need a lot of time to just process what's going on.
Yeah.
And so speaking of processing spirituality and spiritual work, please tell us, what work do you do and how did you come to do this work? I mean, it's so phenomenal.
So my coaching work, and it kind of that coaching-ness filters into the nonprofit stuff too, but for work, it took me a while to find my niche. So you go to coaching school and you're all lit up kind of like a born again Christian or something, you know, like you've had these schools and you're like, everyone in the world needs coaching. And so I was a pre and postnatal coach for a while. There goes my dog. I coached a whole bunch of different people, and then you kind of get to learn who is really resonant with you and who is aligned with what you're teaching and that kind of thing. And so now I would say 99% of my clients are women who are starting some kind of soul venture. So they're either writing a book, or maybe they're having a baby, or maybe they're starting a business, or doing something that's their soul has been asking them to do, and then maybe they haven't had the clarity or the courage to step in and do that. And so connect with me, and I really help them dig in and find their own genius and answer all those questions that haven't been clear to them in the past, and really stand by them kind of like a cheerleader. And I absolutely believe in what they're doing, and that they can do it. So when they're not believing in themselves, they get through those times of struggle of thinking, I can't do this, you know.
Wow. So, well, you don't just coach, right? You also have online programs. Can you please tell us about those?
Yeah, so the coaching kind of these days has really moved worldwide. Like my customers are all over the world. And so the internet's been fantastic for that. And I had an example of the internet really blowing something up. I created something called the Epic Manifesto, which was just helping people put together like a really powerful mission statement manifesto for their lives or their businesses or whatever it was that they were working on at that time. And the process that they would go through to get it written was all very based in their values and the golden thread that runs through all the things that they've been doing in the past that might seem, all over the place, but really they're connected somehow by their values. I have a lot of people like, oh, I love to travel and I did this for 4 years and that for 5 years, and they just don't know how to bring all those things together. So I thought, what was that value behind all those things that you were doing, and then bring that to this. So it created a lot of clarity, and they loved it. It was artistic. It was fun. And I decided to just offer it to the wide world as an online course. And so I put it out there, and 400 people signed up for it. And they're like,
wow.
And I was like, oh crap. Okay, this is what we're doing. So that was super successful, and people loved it, and they loved the community that they created with each other. And I loved seeing that. And so from there, I started to just do more and more online stuff. But that was the beginning of it, and it's really fun. So.
Okay. So, Tia, can you take us through part of your soul discovery process, your spiritual awakening to find this work? And then how did this help you change your finances or your money story?
Okay. So can I start with the money story first? Okay. I think the money story is evolving. I don't say that I don't have a money story anymore. But growing up in the family that I did, I kind of already told you it was a little crazy traveling hippie family. But my parents definitely had ideas about really wealthy people not being spiritual, maybe connected in this family. And really felt from their experience that people that were really in touch with their spirit and God and the earth were dirt poor. And so they really aligned with that simplicity, that connection to nature, that lifestyle of not having possessions to be happy. And with that, I think that's beautiful. But with that, there was also a very negative bent on having things.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so we also grew up homeschooled, so we weren't institutionalized in any way because we were always traveling always. So I didn't have a standard, education that most people have, which was probably their biggest gift to me. But at the time I didn't realize it. And certainly when I went out into the world as an adult, I didn't appreciate it because all the things that maybe I would have wanted to do or express myself in, people were like, okay, well, what's your degree and whatever, you know? And I was like, oh man, like I felt like all of these doors were closed to me because I didn't have a standard education, instead of finding the ways to open them with all the experience that I did have. And so, yeah, my money story was that, wow, I'm going to be doing these kinds of jobs for the rest of my life because I don't have this background or this education.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it took me a long time to kind of break out of that mindset of not being as smart or capable as other people, because I was knowledge base.
Yeah, I think this is so relevant right now because, you know, in South Africa, you've been to South Africa, a huge part of the story that we're told, especially as Black women, and it's something that I've actually had to work through, that I didn't know I carried that story, that as a Black woman, I'm not good enough. I would never achieve anything. After all, who am I? All these things. So how do you work through stories like that about yourself, where you see doors actively closing because of class, education, all that? So could you give us an example of what you did to help you overcome that?
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage, because the society and the world puts everyone in a box. They want you to be in this box. Opportunities are available to you if you check all the boxes in the box.
Yeah.
And outside of that, somehow, whether that's color, gender, socioeconomic status, education, whatever puts you outside the box, society has a hard time of still seeing and noticing your value. So you yourself have to see and notice your value so that you can make other people aware of that. And that's a hard place to start. You know, it's nice to get the feedback that you have value, and then you start to believe it. But a lot of people in situations just like what you were talking about, it has to start with them believing in themselves and their own value.
But how? How do you believe in yourself? Because that for me has always, you know, like it's easy to teach people that. And it's something I think more than anything, after I wrote Heart, Mind, and Money, it's something I had to dig deep to find. And to be perfectly honest, I think last year and a lot of things that happened last year, all the kind of relationship fallouts that I had last year, that is the one thing that I realized that triggered me to go deeper into that. I thought I'd figured it out, but then I realized I didn't know how to believe in myself. I always thought I can believe in myself if I have those people in my life. And then suddenly the universe took those people away. And I was like, wait, but these people were the people that made me believe in me. They were my fans and my encouragement, the people close to me, my confidants. How do you get to that point of self-belief? What are some exercises people can do? What did you do?
Yeah, well, I think it is a process, unless someone can catch you when you're young. And, you know, and that's what we try to do with Global Sorority, is get to girls who are impressionable and young and really start to give them a sense of themselves and their how important that is. So if someone can give that to you when you're young, it's huge, huge, huge for the rest of your life. And if somehow you didn't get that and society's not giving it to you, it's an awareness of the story, first of all, and that perhaps it's not true, and that how do I explore that perhaps that I am of value and that I do have something of value, either it's just my experiences or whatever, and to be able to touch base with that. But first you have to realize that it's just a story and that it's not true. And sometimes it takes a while for those awakenings and that realization to happen for you, unless you're lucky to have a coach or something like that, which few people are in the world, right? So, and it's a process. It's a process of life. Like, it took me a long time. I was probably in my late 20s before I thought, okay, you know, I feel like I don't have any value. I have this story about my worth and my capability, but I'm going to do these scary things anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a stepping into scary things that you do not feel like you belong there. You do not feel like you're worthy to get that, to receive it, but you're stepping into it anyway because you want it.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you said that.
Okay, tell me, how does that resonate with you?
Because I think for most of us, we wait for the fear to disappear or dissipate, or we wait for courage to basically find us, you know? Yeah. We're waiting for these emotions to suddenly shift. But I've always said that it's a two-step process. It's that you work on the emotions, but at the same time, you take action and you step into that discomfort and you work through your feelings as you're taking action, you know? And I think this is the one thing that holds so many of us back from taking the first step into our dreams, that we're waiting for us to suddenly change and shift, not understanding that you have to do the work, you know? And I love what you were saying about doing the internal work, but also stepping into the discomfort. And as you step into the discomfort, you do the work. You know, you keep doing the courses, you do your coaching, you do all that needs to be done to get to the next level.
Yeah, and then you start to believe in yourself. Even if it was a failure, the fact that you, or perceived failure, whatever, I don't really believe in failure, but learning moments, even if you learned something really big, that wasn't exactly what you planned, that the more and more that you do that and you don't die and something else opens up from it, you begin to trust and learn that, hey, maybe I can do this. So it takes experience of doing to start trusting and believing in yourself. If you're always afraid and you always sit back and you never step into it because you feel like you're not worthy or that you're not capable, then learning to trust and building that muscle probably won't happen. And connect with somebody who helps you through a whole coaching process or something like that. But for the most of us who don't experience that, we really just have to keep pushing ourselves into action and let that reinforce our value.
Wow, I really, really love that. So how has practicing your work shaped your financial story in particular?
Yeah, well, you know, it is funny when I said earlier that it's an evolving financial story. So in the beginning, when I first started coaching, I wanted to do it for free for everyone because I didn't have that much experience, and I just felt weird asking for money for this thing that felt so of service to me. And so I had to get over all of that and start charging for my coaching.
Yes.
So that and
oh wow, another thing I know so many of the wealthy money tribes struggle with this. It comes up so often. Yeah. And then when you charge, people are constantly like, but now I can't send out the invoice.
Right. I do. I mean, I would send out the invoice, but I have clients who don't send out invoices. So I know that whole story too. And so, and then I started to, have more and more clients. And when the sales conversation would come up, I would automatically discount without them even asking.
Yes, I've done that several times.
Right. And so how do you know that they couldn't afford the original cost? Why did you just lowball yourself right there? So I had to get over that. And then as you get more clients, then you start charging more because you can't take everyone and so then your prices go up. So you go through another evolution of that reckoning of worthiness, of value, all those things keep coming up. The more and more and more that you step into, making money from what you're doing and believing in yourself, because I think a lot of times we don't want to charge more or charge what we're worth or any of that because we have this lack of belief in our own value. That's basically what it was.
So what I'm also hearing is that even as you grow, and this is something I didn't expect, because when I became debt-free, I thought, that's it. I've solved my money story. I've paid off my debt. I'm golden, And then I realized that, holy crap, just because you've paid off $60,000 worth of debt, you haven't really dealt with the money story of making money. And there's another flip side of the coin around creating wealth that you've probably never explored. So what I'm hearing from you is even as you're growing financially, more stuff is coming up around, your money story. It's an ever growing journey.
Yeah, it's an evolving. Your money story just evolves with you. Every new step, every, expansion that you make, your money story just grows, morphs into something else, and you bump into something else. And which is fantastic because it gives you opportunities to shine a mirror and look at things. So that's why money growth, any kind of growth creates expansion, which creates shit to come up, excuse my French, and then it creates you to have to look at. So expansion of every kind is fantastic. And especially when you're trying to grow your business and your wealth and fix your money story, because there's a lot of hidden stuff under there that we otherwise wouldn't maybe get to look at.
Yes, no, I totally agree. That for me was the aha moment that every phase in your finances leads to something more in that money story. So, Tia, what was the lowest point in your life with regards to finances, and how did you find the will to turn it around? In those low moments, I find that low moments are often like those dark nights of the soul. When I look back on my life, the time when I was seriously depressed, and right before I came out and everything changed, that was the darkest moment of my life. And I remember sitting in a psychiatrist's office, not psychiatrist's office, in a tarot reader's office, obviously. Tarot reader. And like, the tarot reader was telling me, please don't take your own life, because at the time I was in really bad shape and nothing was working for me. And he was like, you're going to go on a retreat for 10 days, which was the meditation retreat, and it will change everything, which I didn't believe that anything could change in my life in 10 days, because I'd spent 4 years trying to change it. I mean, a whole 4 years at that point, but I mean, it had been years since my teens. That shifted everything. In 10 days, I went from being in the darkest moment of my life to going out, studying research on heart, mind, and money. And since then, my life has never been the same, actually. So awesome. I really love to have people hear these dark moments, because I know there's so many people listening to this who are thinking, I'm never going to get out of this. And just hearing that there are others that have been through it, and that the going out can be amazing. Please share.
Okay. So I don't know that I had like a 10-day transformation. I mean, that sounds amazing. Out of my darkest points.
Oh, I forgot to mention it was the worst 10 days. I mean, it's 10 days, but it took, it was 4 years of pure dark to get to those 10 days, But it felt like the 10 days shifted everything. 10 days of how, but they shifted everything. But it took 4 years to get to those 10 days.
Right. Right. Okay. So my lowest moment financially, I was probably in my early 20s. I had moved cities and didn't really have a lot of money. We were living in a tent in somebody's back patio that was concrete. So when it would rain, and it was in Seattle, so it did rain, it would fill up with water. And I'd have to go for job interviews and things, and all of my clothes were in a backpack and they would just get all wet. I remember just
my God,
their car got stolen. And I just remember thinking, and I didn't have a job at that point. I just remember thinking, what am I doing? I am not doing this. Like, this is not, having traveled as a child and lived in lots of crazy situations, I was kind of used to it. But there was a part of me that was like, F this, I am like not doing this anymore. Like, forget roughing it. I'm just done with this. So that was sort of a conscious moment of really like thinking that I wanted a different kind of lifestyle than what maybe I had been more used to. And and so then it's just been a steep progression to princesshood ever since then. No, but like seriously, I just like, people were like, oh, let's go camping. I was like, no, let's not. I've lived in a tent more than I've lived in a home at this point, so that doesn't sound very fun to me. I'm good. I'm camping now, but like there was definitely a time in my life where I was just like, no, I'm not roughing it anywhere, doing anything. And so I really plugged into the system. But here's the scary thing. So sometimes with the checks and balances, with the pendulum swinging, I really went the opposite direction and worked massive amounts of hours, like really plugged in, bought a house, 2 houses, got mortgages and car payments, and worked my ass off. I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours and hours a week with no free time, no vacation, no nothing. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. What about being in nature? What about creating art? What about traveling? Like all of these things that my little wild hippie child, was connected to. I just had like thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and thinking that I wanted some kind of like moving so far away from what I didn't want that I forgot all the things about that after I did want. And so that was another wake-up call. And so I ended up getting a divorce and leaving my house with a backpack after building this huge house.
No way.
And not that person or that marriage was even, he was actually a fantastic, lovely person. We had just created this life together that I was drowning in. I just couldn't do it anymore. And
what?
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know what, I just spent 10 years creating all of this, and that's not even what I really want. I want to go to coaching school. I want to, I want to do all these things that if we keep doing this crazy working thing and just, compiling possessions and doing this stuff, I'm never going to get there. So I have to do this. I don't want to be 40 and look back over my life and be bitter and angry that I didn't do any of the things that I wanted to do with my life. And so we separated, and it was very amicable and everything was fine. We didn't have kids. It was divorce is always sad, but it wasn't like a huge thing. Apart from the fact that I left everything and just left with a backpack of stuff in my car.
Wow. The one thing that you were trying to avoid to begin with.
Luckily, I didn't end up sleeping in a tent that time, but I was a little bit more well set up. I had a job and everything by then. But I went back to coaching school. I started to shift my career, and then, everything really changed from there because I started to really listen to what it is that I wanted on a deep level instead of just letting life kind of float me down the river, landing me wherever it might. I really started to take the reins of my life and decide exactly what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be, and then made sure that all those actions were leading to that thing. I got really precise and very, focused and with my steps.
Wow. Tia, you shared way more. Like, you just shared some of the most beautiful wisdom. Like, it wasn't just a money story evolution. This is about really stepping into your purpose, which is exactly what you teach. So I think it's so perfect that you have this amazing experience. So what would you say is one of your most defining moments around money and success? Would you consider leaving and going to coaching school being one of those moments?
I mean, I still made lots of financial not great decisions after that moment. So I don't, I still do. If I had a defining moment where me and money kind of figured it out, I would say, okay, so I've always had this kind of, my parents were we never had any debt growing up. It was always a cash lifestyle. They never mortgaged anything, so I kind of always had that. So I've never carried a lot of debt around, but I did notice, outside of mortgages, but when I did notice that I had debt, it really weighed heavily on me. It is a feeling like such weight that I kind of always made it a priority to not have debt.
It's so funny that you talk about that, because my parents also generally don't carry debt. Both, like my mom and my dad are not together, but they've both got houses and everything is paid off. Cars are paid off. But I was just that child that decided to be like whatever and just be different from them and pile on tons of debt.
Right. I mean, there have been times where I've piled up debt, but it was so heavy that getting rid of it was like such a major priority just because of the way that I emotionally reacted to having it. I didn't like that feeling at all.
Please tell a little bit more about the emotional reaction and how you overcame your emotions around debt. Because wow, debt is the one thing that people email me a lot about, and just people email me not from a space of calm. Often within the email itself, the energy is so panicked that I just have to take a breather and and actually tell them to breathe, because I can sense the true sheer panic and overwhelm and frustration.
Yeah, it's all of those things. It can be all of those things. I think one big thing is to really step back and notice, yes, having this debt feels all-consuming and horrendous, but in the large scope of things, in our 100-year lifespan that we might have, it's really not something. The something is you robbing yourself of joy and peace and calm in this moment. Like living with that feeling is really the sorrow and the huge tragedy in having debt. So outside of the debt, if you can bring yourself to that place of peace and realize it's just a blip in your whole huge life, and eventually something will happen with it. Either the worst fear will happen and you'll figure it out when it does, or you'll resolve it somehow. And miracles can always happen as well. So to not allow that to steal this precious gift of life and time that we have right now is really important to remember. Anytime something's stressing you out like that, you're allowing it to steal the precious gift of right now, which is all you really have that matters and is really worth your time and energy. So looking at it from a bigger picture if you can, and know that somehow it's going to get resolved. And you probably won't die.
Wow. Wow, that's really, really amazing. So is that what you did with your debt to be able to get out? You just...
Yeah. Oh, and I worked my butt off. And sacrificed things to pay it off, right? Instead of buying shoes and going on vacations and doing whatever, I would pay off the debt instead. So, so it was kind of a twofold action plus really getting a grip on the bigger picture.
Okay, so you spoke about financial miracles, my favorite topic. Have you ever experienced a financial miracle?
Yeah, I have. Maybe not like massive ones, but I'm going to use my parents as a good example. So they never saved anything. They never thought about retirement. They lived day to day. Sometimes we had zero money, and they always told us, okay, kids, we've got 5 cents. So, like we were always aware of what was going on financially with us for the most part growing up. And so, I think most people would look at that and be like, oh my gosh, you have all these kids, you have no retirement, it's totally irresponsible. But they really chose to live in the moment and travel and do the things that, filled them with joy and connection in the moment and not worrying about the future. And I think a lot of times, people would look at that and just be like, oh my gosh. And so what happened was when I was 14, maybe, my dad inherited a huge farm in Ireland that he grew up on, and we moved there and lived there. And that's, it totally took care of any financial future that they might be worried about. So they could have spent all of those years up until 35 or 40 worrying about retirement and saving and what they were going to do when they were old, and sacrifice going on all those trips and traveling and doing all those things. And whatever, they were taken care of. So they had this kind of philosophy that what will happen and we'll eventually always be fine. And so to just live for now and enjoy now. And so that was their overall philosophy. And I kind of took that with me a little bit. So money to me has always been kind of fluid. I understood that it would come and go and that I would always be okay. So I never really stressed out too much about money eventually, and I still don't.
I so, so love that. Actually, I'm a little like wowed, okay? But Tia, I didn't know any of this stuff about you, and I'm so, so happy we did this. I want everyone to listen to this. This is amazing. Your money story is truly incredible. I love that what you said about your parents.
Yeah.
So this is something also, I think the new evolution for me. Like I said before, it was about paying off debt. And now I've noticed that the way I feel about money in terms, I didn't focus so much on making money before and increasing wealth as opposed to just eliminating debt. So those are two different mindsets and two different spiritual things that are going on that I didn't understand, you know. One is really about spending less, etc., and really paying off everything. And now I'm at this point in my life where it's about expansion. And I'm noticing what you're saying about the money story changing and fluidity and trusting. And I love that that just kind of came to you because that's your family story.
Right.
You know? So I really, really love that because this is something that's just started happening for me. I think started last year, really, where I was like, I'll always be okay, you know? And more so this year, for some reason, it's become a very congruent belief within me that, you know what, I can spend things on my business, like making the leap to hire people to help me. I've got like 2 people in my team that are like amazing. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this every month. This is kind of like a commitment. And even though they're not full-time, they're part-time. But to just observe that, just see that actually one of the weird things that a thought that's been coming up constantly for me is that money will stretch to like, well, basically money will expand itself. Like I always feel like, oh, I've got this budget for my company. How's this going to work out? I've got like all these expenses. And then I just say, it will expand. And I always have more left over than what I think. And to the point where I've gone to my Excel spreadsheet, taken out my calculator and been like, this cannot be true. How's this happening? And I'm just like, huh, that's interesting.
It's like the loaves and the fishes story with your money over there.
Yes, I'm like, it's really expanding and doing its own thing. Like, what is going on? Like, my practical side wants to understand how this is possible. And I think last month I just decided, if it, you know what, it's happening. I don't need to know how all this is happening. And it's like the business is doing its own thing. And I just have to accept it and honor that it really does expand and stretch. So that fluidity, which I am only just stepping into now, when I'm frankly honest.
Cool.
Yeah.
Everyone's on their own path and journey, right? And it just takes time. It wasn't for you back when you were trying to pay off your debt. You were learning a different lesson. So I think everybody has something that's for them at certain points, and constantly leaning in and asking what's for me next, you know?
Yeah. So my next thing about talking back on the whole financial fluidity and also paying off debt is there something you had to stop doing even though you loved it in order to get to the next level of your life? And not just in terms of money, but also in terms of growing your business and stepping into your purpose.
So for those few years, I was just working a lot. I mean, I worked a lot and I paid off debt, and I worked a lot and I paid off debt. And so I wasn't doing what I loved. I wasn't traveling, which I love. I wasn't taking time to do art at all. There was a lot of things that I wasn't doing that my soul really needed. And yeah, so finding that balance sometimes too, you know, to make sure that And I didn't have like a ton of material things that I love. Like I'm not into shoes and bags and all those things. So I didn't have to give up like things like that. I didn't like going out drinking. You know, there wasn't things so much that I had to give up. It was more like big things like traveling and free time and, you know, things like really expensive things. So, yeah, I guess that I think there's always sacrifice when you're focusing on a goal. You have to sacrifice other things. Generally, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
And then I was just lucky. Like I mean, I call it lucky, but my energy, my vibration to life and money allowed me to step into my business and grow my business without too much sacrifice, to be honest. Time, yes. Money, yes. But I didn't have to sacrifice other things to make it happen by the time I was really investing in it.
I really, really love that. So what is next for you?
Next for me, well, I'm pregnant, so it's early, and so we're not like, you know, announcing it to the world, although I just did. But
oh my, Tia, I can't believe this. Remember the conversation we had on Lion's Head? We once had this incredible conversation about kids. Do we want them? Is it gonna happen?
Yeah. So that was a long journey. That was a long journey for me. I mean, talk about, and I had consciously chosen not to have kids in the past, especially, and there's a big money component to that too. Like the way that my parents raised us, I had a lot of problems with it. I didn't, you know, appreciate, you know, a lot of things the way that they did them. And I was like, well, I have kids, I'm never gonna, you know, be provided for in all of these ways. And so, and in the past, like if I'd had kids, like in my past marriage, then I probably would have still had to work and they would have been in daycare or something. And that wasn't ideal to me. It's like, what's the point of having kids? Someone else is going to be raising them for you all the time. And so there was a lot of reasons why I chose not to have kids in the past. The money part was just one small part of that. But yeah, and now I'm totally at a point in my life where I could hire somebody to help me if I needed help. My husband's super supportive. I don't have to worry about where we're going to live or any of those things. So this, if I was ever going to do it, would have been the time to do it. That, and I'm as old as dirt.
Congratulations, Tia. I am so happy for you.
Thank you.
Wow.
So that's coming up like in my, you know, near future. And I really had not done it also in the past because I felt like, how can I do all these things? How can I run this business and travel all these places and work with Global Sorority and do all this stuff, affect the world on the level that I'm used to, and be able to have a kid the way that I would want to. And so I had all these stories in my head of lack, that there wasn't enough of me, enough time to do both the way that I would want.
Yes.
And this might be true or it might be not true. I don't know yet. So I'm going to find out, you know. I'm just going to create a new story about what that's going to look like, and we'll see. So.
And I think that's actually quite beautiful. You get to rewrite your life story anytime you feel like it.
That's right. Yeah. Because it's all made up. We don't know what the future holds. We're always making something up. I always say, if you're going to make shit up, make something good. You know, thinking about your future. If you're going to be making up a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know is going to be the case, then you might as well make up something fantastic.
I am such a believer in that now. You know, I wasn't always, obviously, but now I'm such a believer in that, to just make up a different story, that one that's really good.
Yeah.
Wow. So, oh wow, I really can't wait to get this out. Like, I want everyone to hear this. So I just think this entire class, and I'm calling them classes now because I think we learn a lot more from people's stories and experiences than if I just get people to come and tell exactly what their work is. I think this gives everyone such a huge such a good experience, should I say, to really understand what the work is, because you are the best reflection of your work.
That's right.
Okay, so how can people find you and your work?
Okay.
So everyone that's like, I want to do the Epic Manifesto course, how do they find it? And how do they find you?
I only teach it once a year, live. I had planned on taking all the recordings from a class and putting it out there, but it's really intensive. And people just weren't getting through the work on their own as a do-it-yourself thing. So I figured, okay, obviously I have to be present. I have to answer questions. I have to be really hands-on in this course. And that's something I learned through trial and error. I was hoping that it would be like, oh yeah, slap it out there and teach it once, and teach itself after that. But it really didn't really work out that way. So I teach it once a year myself, and it's always a beautiful thing. And I'll be teaching it again in January. And if you, Van, would like to offer it to your tribe, I would be more than happy to accept anybody that would like to join it, and that can be your gift to them.
I am offering it to my tribe. It to my tribe.
Great. So yeah, anybody who's connected with Van, who's watching this, you're welcome to come and join me. And it's a gift from Van, so that's very awesome.
Thank you.
And so then and then after that I teach one more 6-month course called Epic Life Maps, and that's kind of it. I teach 2 major programs a year online, and then the rest is just one-on-one coaching. So
oh wow, I really, really love it. So anyone listening in, I will be sending messages constantly throughout to everyone in the Wealthy Money Tribe, and just offering Tia's gift. I think, as you can see, she's an incredible human being, and I'm just in awe of her and totally love and adore her. So thank you so much, Tia. Thank you for joining us.
Lovely to connect with you and hear your voice.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. That was Tia Kelly. And as Tia mentioned, I'll be sending out a gift to you. So please check your email. If you're not subscribed to the Wealthy Money newsletter yet, don't panic. You can subscribe at wealthy-money.com, and you'll receive a bonus gift from me, your own copy of the Holistic Wealth Manifesto, which is a step-by-step workbook to help you transform your finances over a 3-month period. And as usual, let me know your thoughts on today's class. Have a fantastic day. Bye.